So thanks everyone for joining today, for joining us for the Concordance Evolution webinar. This webinar is specifically for our Litigation Service Bureau partners, and what we'll be doing today is we'll be going through Concordance Evolution for those of you that haven't seen that. At the beginning here, I'll be discussing also the different models that we have available for our partners here in the market as well. For those of you that are new to Concordance Evolution, Concordance Evolution is a fully web-based review software product. So we, for most people who are aware of Concordance Traditional, we needed to build out another tool that was able to handle the much larger cases that we're seeing come through the marketplace right now. So Evolution allows us to have that extra scalability to handle the larger e-discovery matters that we're seeing. A couple of things that we were really focused on when we were developing Concordance Evolution, we're looking for speed. So we're looking at very fast importing files, kind of the doc-to-doc speed as well. We're looking at capacity. So we have a scalable Microsoft SQL backend database that allows us, again, to support some of this large-scale multi-party document reviews. And then also ease of use. What we want for your clients as you're bringing them on board and having them use Concordance Evolution, we don't want this to be a reinvent the wheel type of training. So we really wanted Concordance Evolution to be intuitive. We wanted the workflows to help save time. And we wanted the review process to be able to run a lot faster than we were typically seeing. Some of the latest releases of Concordance Evolution, so we're now on Evolution 3.0, which is the latest release. Some of the big things that came out, we already had some of that LAW PreDiscovery integration, but now with 3.0 it's even tighter. So instead of having to create a load file, now we have the direct integration with LAW PreDiscovery, and I believe most of you on this call are current law customers. So this will make a big difference for you just in the simple workflow of moving from law into Concordance Evolution. We have Unicode to expand to multinational cases. We also created some more reporting around the reviewer activity reporting so you can see kind of what the reviewers have been doing and what changes they've made. Some of the real-time updates for reports, and then also some export enhancements as well. So the ability to do some hybrid productions there. We also just have a release of Evolution 3.1, and that gave us the persistent hit highlighting as well. So again, like I said, Concordance Evolution and LAW PreDiscovery, so there's tight integration between Concordance Evolution and LAW PreDiscovery. So it allows that kind of simplified and accelerated workflow from your processing into review. So we're trying to reduce the data hops. I think we're all trying to reduce the data hops as much as possible, so this helps us do this as well. A couple of different models that we have for the Litigation Service Bureau market that I wanted to talk through here. So the first one that we have is the hosted model, and that is hosted in our data center. We have quite a few data centers. So we have Ohio, we have Arizona, and we also have in London as well. So that's a private cloud infrastructure. So we build out the infrastructure for you that is maintained by us for you. What you're paying for, you're paying a monthly fee for your infrastructure and storage costs. What we decide at the outset is how large of an environment that you need. And then from there, you're kind of paying as you go for your Evolution seat. So this allows you a lot more flexibility. So let's say we build you out a medium environment, and then a couple months down the road, you have grown a lot, and so you need a larger environment. We can move you up to a larger environment. That gives a lot more flexibility for you. The other way to purchase Concordance Evolution is the installed version. I think that's what we all know is you purchase the software, you're purchasing your own infrastructure and maintaining that yourself. There's a third option as well that we have specifically for the Litigation Service Bureau partners, and that is for you to be able to do on-demand cases with us. This is only for our partners, and we have a low gigabyte charge for that. This is not an area that we want you to stay in, but should you want to try Evolution and not want to commit to, at the outset, the private cloud, that's a way for you to kind of get your feet wet with Concordance Evolution as well. Just some of the benefits of being in the hosted environment. You have a fully replicated environment. You also have the data center certification. So with a lot of our partners have been trying to go after the cases for financial institutions. They're requiring a lot more of the certifications where their data is being held. Our data centers have those certifications. We have tracked chain of custody for media handling, storage, and also destruction. You have storage on demand. It's scalable and flexible. We're platform agnostic, so let's say you need to throw another type of software that maybe is not Lexis-owned software into the environment. We allow you to do that as well. We manage the infrastructure, and again, we have a bunch of different primary location options as well. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dean Spalding, and we'll go ahead and start running through the Concordance Evolution demo. If you have questions, feel free. You have to press, I think, *6 to unmute your line. You can also use the chat feature on the side, and there's also a Q&A feature. So however you feel the most comfortable asking your questions, feel free to ask questions throughout this presentation.
Great, and I just switched over control to Dean. So Dean, let me know when you can.
Okay, thank you. I'll be sharing out my desktop here. And are you able to see my desktop now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. Pardon me. So, as I go through this, if you do have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'd like this to be as interactive as possible. A little bit of format here. I'm going to go through the reviewer side, show some of the features and how easy it is for a reviewer to pick up. Once I've completed that, then I'll slide over to the administrative side, and then we can take a look what that law integration will actually look like coming into Evolution. And you can also see how quick and easy it can be. Not only bringing it into Evolution from LAW PreDiscovery, but then synchronizing it back. This works especially well if you like to do your productions from law, for example. It'll be easy to push redacted images, and those images only, back into law in order to do your particular production. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and take a look at some of our review sets here. And I'll take a quick step back here so you can see how I got to this dashboard. So I'll go ahead and log out. Whether or not you are a reviewer or an administrator on the system, this will be your initial page that you'll in fact see. I'm going to log in with my demo account. And as a reviewer, once in, you'll see that I have a reviewer tab up at the top of the screen. Now, if you're an administrator, you will also see an administrative tab at the top of the screen. Over here on the left side under Review Binders is where your document review sets will be kept. I'll go ahead and click on one of these review binders, and now we're going to be able to see the specific review set. The binder structure that we do in fact have set up will allow you to put the same records in a larger data set into multiple different review sets as long as they reside in different binders. So it's one possible way of dividing out your review sets, utilizing those same records based on the type of review or type of the reviewing team that's looking at it. In the center screen, we have messages. So anything from a bulk tag to a search alert, which we can talk about a little bit later here, anything that a reviewer runs will also show up as a message here. Especially important if it's something that runs overnight. When they log in, they're able to see a message, know that whatever they were trying to run has complete potentially, and then jump right back to work. On the right side under Quick Tools, you have your saved searches, your saved search results, and your search alerts. Along with that, your notifications, and that's basically what we see here, and then your search history. So I'm going to go into one of my document review sets. This happens to be one that I've brought in a production through load file. I also have another set that was direct integration in from LAW PreDiscovery as well. Okay. And so once in, the initial view that we're looking at here is what we call the snippet view, and it's exactly that. It's a snippet of the first few lines of text for a specific document. Now, a couple of things that may help reviewers out with the snippet view is when they're doing searches, the hit highlighting will actually show up in the snippet view as well. So they might be able to make some sort of determination if they want to tag, move on, look closer to the record, without actually having to go into it because they do have that little bit of a snippet here. If as a reviewer they're looking for a little bit more information or they don't like the snippet view, they can come up and click on table view. And the table view is going to look a little bit more similar to maybe what some folks are used to. You know, if they're familiar with Concordance Traditional, it'll look very similar to this. We have a little bit more metadata information. It's easily customizable for the reviewer. If they just come up here and click on fields, they can add and subtract any field that's available to really declutter what they're looking at or focus more on specific things without having to slide back and forth and fish through it. And I'll jump back over to the snippet view here. Over on the left side, we have our tagging pane or the tagging window. To tag records, it's very easy to do. You can just select a couple of records and come over and right-click on the specific tag. Now, as you can see, there's options to tag and untag for each tagging option. And we can do that for documents in the search, selected documents, which we've done here. We've selected a couple of documents. And do the same thing for families and threads as well. They can also edit tags from here and do any sort of searching or querying based off a tag as well. And I'll just untag. Also on the left side under log, we have a drop-down box for reason code to start building out the privilege log. So as a reviewer is going through, if they wanted to select a specific reason code for a document as to why it might be privileged, they can come in here, select, and this is customizable. You can put whatever you'd like in here. So I've selected under seal, and now I'm going to click save. And now I've associated that reason code with this particular record. So when it comes time to actually build out that privilege log, you can utilize this reason code, and that can go into the privilege log as well. Also on the left side, we have an area here to actually add comments for a record as well. And in the advanced searching, you can actually do searches based off of the comments. I'll cancel. Also on the left side, the additional tab up here, the grouping tab. So the grouping tab is more of a tallying sort of option where you can select a specific field and then begin to group records together based off of the data within that from field. This can work pretty well if you just want to come in and take a quick snapshot of maybe a specific date sent for a record. You can come in here, group those together, and you can click on this and you can start culling records down based off of groups. So you can do a group, pull up a group of records here, do another grouping and another grouping and another grouping if you wanted to. And again, this is all before we're even potentially doing any searching. And let's go back to my review tab here. Before I jump into a specific record so we can take a closer look, there's really two primary searching options available. There's the quick search at the top of the page, and there's also the advanced search as well. So again, we're just either clicking up here to get to that, or we're just sliding over in a drop-down and click on advanced. So very easy for reviewers to find. And we'll talk about searching here in just a few moments. I'm going to go into record number 1, and we can do that by just clicking on the hyperlink here. And once in, we are seeing an image or a rendered image of a specific file. Concordance Evolution uses a native viewer. So any sort of processing that you may do in LAW PreDiscovery, for example, you don't necessarily have to image everything before you bring it over into Evolution because of the native viewer. You can just do your native processing, push that into Evolution, and we're going to render an image of it right here. And as you can see by this particular example, I already have some markups and redactions that I've done to this rendering, and you can see it is opaque. So nothing is permanent on this particular rendering or permanent on the native file that we're looking at. When it does become permanent is when we run a production, and then we're creating TIFFs or PDFs for that production, and those redactions can be burnt onto it. So we're never actually altering or doing anything to that native file itself. You still have the ability over here on the left side to tag. But you can see the tagging options have changed just a little bit because now we're focusing on one specific record as opposed to the larger results. You can still add reason code, comments. If you need to do any redactions or markups, those are available here in the upper left-hand corner right here. Anything from highlighting to your standard redaction, and then also a find and redact feature as well. So it does exactly that. I type in the term, it will find and redact that out for you. If as a reviewer, they want to see a little bit more than what the image offers. So for example, the metadata. We can come up here and also click on the document data view, and that's going to bring up all of our metadata fields that are associated with this record. And just like in the table view, it can be customized very easily by clicking on the Fields button. Same thing, we can add and subtract fields based off what the reviewer does or does not want to see. Go ahead and cancel. And also doing any sort of searching, not only do you get hit highlighting in the near native view, but you will also get hit highlighting in the document data view as well based off of your search terms. And you'll see what that looks like when we do a couple of searches here. If as a reviewer, they like to see the document data view, but then they also want to see the image as well. Well, if we just slide up over here under review and then come down to document data in near native, the image itself pops out into a second screen. So this works very well if reviewers working with dual monitors. They can slide this over to one screen, keep the document data view on the other, and now they can review and look at both. And both of these stay synchronized. So if I click through the image, the document data view will stay synchronized as well. So it's very easy to go through. And of course, you still have, oh yes, absolutely.
So question, we have a quick question. Are all of the versions of production visible in the viewer?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And I'll show you here very quickly where you would actually see that. So I'm going to go back to my document. So when a production is run, it does get written back to what you see here in the reviewer interface. So it does a couple of things. It'll write your production numbers back if you've chosen to create production numbers, and it'll also write the images back as well. In order to see those, if you come up under Options and then go to Image Set, the specific name of that production would show up here under the Image Set. And so you'd be able to click on this and then bring up the set that you've actually produced. So yes, you are able to see that. And I don't know, I have run a production in this particular set here. I don't think this particular record was one that I have ran, but I can take a quick look to see if it is. If not, yeah, I will say no image available here, and that's just because the production has not run for that. But yes, it will. You'll be able to see any sort of production that you've run from here. And the same sort of thing would apply if you like to run your productions out of LAW PreDiscovery. You would push any sort of redacted images like this into LAW PreDiscovery. You'd run your production. Then you would push that production image set back into Evolution, and it would show up here. So whether or not you run the production from Evolution, or if you run it from LAW, you would be able to populate that here under image sets without any issue. Very good. All right, I'm going to go back to my results. There's two additional features here And I think record number 26 will be able to illustrate this. If not, I think I have a saved search that would be able to do that. Under Options and Show Families and Threads. So Evolution has the ability to tie any sort of family groupings together. So as a reviewer, you don't have to do any additional searches to try and find any sort of attachment information, because a lot of times the searches that they do run will probably not pull up the parent or the child, depending upon the search they're using. Evolution ties all of that together, and by selecting Show Families and Threads, that shows up at the bottom, and then you're able to toggle between each record to take a closer look at it. If you do want to tag these, very easy to do. If we right-click here, we can tag the family group, and that's going to tag both of those. This is where any sort of threading information would show up here as well. So if any sort of threading analysis has been run, that information can be imported into Evolution. So if there is a threading family, this would show up here as well at the bottom in the same window. One other feature here before we touch on searching very quickly is the near duplicates option. And I'm going to click on the near duplicates here, and we'll see if this one gives us a good example here. Excellent, it does. So near duplication is built into Concordance Evolution. And if you're not familiar with it, essentially what it's going to do is analyze all of the index text and then start building family and similarity relationships off of that. So this is a good example here. In this particular review set, I happen to have a handful of documents that are straight duplicates, and then based off of the near duplication analysis that I've run, I can go all the way down to about 71% of that base document. And this can be throttled up or down. You may not care or get as far as 71%. You may only care that, we're looking around the 89% range. But to give you an idea of what that will look like, I can come in and click Compare. And now you have the ability to compare and contrast that particular record. It can work well if you're dealing with a lot of scanned documents that have been converted into PDFs. No metadata really associated with those. Running the near duplicates can help you combine a lot of those records together. Now we're back at the primary review or all records here, so about 12,000 records. I'm going to come up and do a quick search here. And we'll do a search for Enron. So again, there's the two primary ways of doing searching, either from the quick search at the top, and you can still build out more complex searches from the quick search up here. But as a reviewer, if they're not really familiar with search syntax, sometimes it's better to get into the more advanced search, where Evolution can help build that out for the particular reviewer. But you can see off of my search here, the hit highlighting does show up in the snippet view. And then if I jump into the table view as well, we're going to, I apologize, if we jump into a specific record, we will also see the hit highlighting. And then into the document data view as well, we also see the hit highlighting. So again, if a reviewer likes to see the document data view, likes to see the image as well, or one or the other, they're still going to get that hit highlighting. And I'm going to go back to my results here.
We have a question, Dean. Does this comparison work with the CJK language as well?
CJK, I am not familiar with that.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Chinese, Japanese, Korean. I'm sorry.
Yes, with the new Unicode, yes, you would be able to do that and have hit highlighting on that as well. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
I believe it does.
Okay.
I'm
very good.
Asking for somebody else, but I believe it does. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. What I'll do is go in and now we'll take a quick look at the advanced search. So in the advanced search, still have the ability to do keywords, search by fields, file types, tags, redaction reasons. Also have the ability then to restrict to documents with markups and restrict to documents with comments. One of the things I do like about this advanced search, and I'm going to go to fields, and we'll go to date received. And as you can see, it's going to build out the search syntax for you. So a lot of reviewers that may not be familiar with searching, search syntax, they don't necessarily need to worry about, am I putting the quotes in the right spot? Am I putting the parens in the right spot? Am I doing my range search accurately? Am I setting that up correctly? They don't really have to worry about that because, as we can see here, Evolution builds that out for the reviewer. So from a standpoint of getting a reviewer up to speed quickly, it's not as intimidating because it does build that out for them. And also to give you an idea of what it will look like, if we build out a little bit more searches here, I'm going to restrict that to Excel documents, and then maybe I'll go a keyword search and run and add. So again, you can see it's really going to start building. It's really going to start building that out for the reviewer. And I'm going to back up here. And so as far as, I'll do another search for Enron here. So if as a reviewer, let's say this is a very complex search here, they do have the ability to save that search and come back to it. In order to do that, we just can come up under the down arrow here and come down to Save Current Search. And we can give it whatever name we would like, so the reviewer then can come back and access that saved search at any point. To give you an idea how easy it is to do that, if I come up under Hover over Review, click on my Saved Searches, that's going to bring up any sort of saved search I may have here. A couple of different options the reviewer does have with these saved searches. They can run, edit, they can make it public or private. So if they wanted other reviewers to see it, very easy to do just by clicking that and making it public. But they can also run a search alert. And let's see if I have a search alert created here. I do, excellent. So essentially what a search alert does, and this can be set up by the reviewer, and you can set the search alert to run every hour, 2 hours, once a day, twice a day, once a week, whatever you would like. And essentially what it's going to do is, based off of your saved search, it's going to look for any new records that have been added that is based off of that saved search. So if an administrator is constantly adding new records to the review set, the reviewer may not necessarily care that a couple thousand records are added every night or every couple of days. They only really care about a select group of records based off their search. Now, if they do run their saved search, they're going to pull up any new records. But as far as isolating what is really, really new, they could do some additional searches to do that. That wouldn't be a problem. But with the search alert, they're notified of that. Not only are they notified of that, but if they come to this screen, they can then choose to view only the new records that have been added that match their saved search. So if their saved search pulls up 1,200 records, 5 more records have been added. Instead of looking at 1,205 records, they can click here and only pull up those 5 records that are associated with that saved search. So depending upon the review, if records are being added often, this might be something they utilize and could be very helpful for them. And now I'll go back. And then I'll go back to my primary set here, and then I will go back to the dashboard. So this is a very high overview of the reviewer interface for Concordance Evolution. Before I switch over to the administrative side, are there any questions or comments, something you're curious in seeing?
Feel free to type in your questions or your comments in the chat or in the question and answer box. But right now it looks like we don't have anything else.
Okay. And if any questions do come up while we're on the administrative side, we can certainly talk about those.
Quick question I have. Not sure if you guys can hear me.
I can hear you.
So the searches when we run, does that run across the set of review binders were created, or it actually runs across the whole case that were processed?
The searching will actually run only over this particular review set that the person is in. So if we had multiple different binders here and different review sets, whatever they are in, that's what they're doing their search on. There is an additional searching option. Let me look here very quickly. Where you can do a search within the review set, so that's, of course, the review set that we're in, or doing a search within the current data set. So the larger one if you did want to, but it's going to default to just doing a search within that particular review set itself.
Okay, great. So essentially, it looks like the index happens across all the data, regardless of the document is duplicate or not, and it goes through search when you run the search basically.
That is correct. So think about if we're looking at this right here, so load file or load file import or law import, this is essentially what we call the data set. And all the records potentially are put into that data set. Then we start parsing those out into review sets that go into binders. So it could be quite possible, let's say you have 1 million records in this data set, but you've only parsed out 12,000 into this one review set. So short answer to the question, yes, everything is going to be indexed at the data set level, and then we are parsing those records out for review based off of who's doing the review, what their access level is, so on and so forth, what they should or should not be looking at.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. I'm going to quickly sign out here, and I'm going to log in as my administrator account here. Okay. And as you can see now, it looks a little bit different. We have the admin and review binder here. So I'm going to jump into the administrative side, and then I'm going to jump into my personal folder that I've created here. So a lot of the times, just to give you an idea of what this looks like here, we have an organizational level, and then in the organizational level, and I can expand some of these out here just so you can get an idea. We have a folder structure, then the matter, and then any sort of data set that might accompany that particular matter. And this is just one way that we have it organized on our side here. So for this example, so we can get a really good look of what that law integration would look like, I'm going to go into my data set here that I've imported data from LAW PreDiscovery. It's a pretty small set. I've only brought over about 297 records. But let's say that we want to bring data over. There's a couple of different ways we can actually do this. Everything is really controlled from the data set level. So I can either right-click on the data set and choose Import LAW PreDiscovery Case, or I could come up to the Import-Export and do the same. I like to come over here and do the right-click, and I'm going to choose Import LAW PreDiscovery Case. And so essentially what we're doing and what evolution is looking for and what we set up in that data set is the path and direction to the project.ini file. And as you know, working with law quite a bit, the project.ini file is essentially what we use to open up a law case, and a lot of different settings are located within that, mapping to SQL, the case name, so on and so forth. That's essentially what we're telling evolution to utilize to go out and find that law case. Now, a couple important things to note about this is when we're bringing data from law into evolution, the native files, any images you may have, text files, all of that stays in its current location, and evolution maps out to that. Any sort of SQL information in the law case, that is copied over into the SQL tables within evolution. So that's really the only transfer that is occurring, is writing additional information from one SQL database to another SQL database, a law SQL database into the evolution. Native files, text, images, that all stays put, and we're mapping to that. So your import goes a lot quicker because you're not doing an export out of law and then turning around and doing an import. We're just doing that direct link and integration. So to give you an idea of some of the things we go through settings-wise that we're able to bring over here, I'm going to just give a very generic name here, import. For just about every administrative function, we can utilize templates and create templates. So if you have a standard settings that you use, usually, you can set those up, create a template. You can still go back and change those once you've selected a template here, and I'll show you what that looks like here. So I've selected one of my templates. Once that template initiates, we can see now everything's gone green. So if I hit next and then I hit finish, I'm going to import based off of that. But each import's going to be a little bit different, so we're going to have to go in and make a couple of changes here. But I'll go in and show you here what some of that will look like here. So if I go into job settings, you'll have the ability to append, replace matching, or append matching, depending upon what you're actually doing. If you've already imported data in and you're doing an overlay, for example, let's say you needed to overlay new text files in for whatever reason, you would be utilizing replace matching. You can select what documents you would like to bring in from your law case based off a tag, or you could bring in all. Law cases can be pretty large, so I'm sure you're not going to want to bring in all of your records in from law, so you'd want to specify based off a tag. Go back to my content settings. If you have images, you can bring those images over and create an image set. So very similar to what we looked at when we talked about productions on the reviewer side. If you run a production within evolution, excuse me, in law, you're going to want to then push that image set back into evolution so a client or reviewer would be able to see what they've produced. This would be the spot where you would potentially do that and create a new image set for that. And you would probably uncheck everything else here because you'd only want to bring over images. As far as importing text, so very similar to a law export, where you can select the order in which you want the text exported. The same thing applies here. It's the text import order. Native files, again, because we have that native viewer, we can just bring over the native files, and we're going to render an image of that. The feature where we looked at show families and threads, that's where this happens right here. So it's important to have create family groups selected and then create threads selected as well. So we ensure we take that information that's in law and bring that over and map it accordingly. If we had these unchecked, we would not be able to utilize the show families and threads feature. Field mappings, Any field that's available in law, you can bring over. So that's pretty straightforward here, and you could potentially remap it if you wanted to as well. Any sort of tagging information, if you wanted to bring tags over from law, you can also do that as well. And then under job options, it's just simply to ask what's the name of the job, what level of priority do you want to give to it, or if you want to save it as a template so you can reuse what you've just selected here. And then back to summary, and then finish, and then that's going to start the import from law into Evolution. Very good. Any questions about that?
We do have a question. It's can Concordance Evolution support multiple versions of text in the viewer?
It can. Yes, we can do that. So in this particular scenario, let's say you've imported your primary text, and then maybe there's some secondary scrub text that you may want to import as well. Absolutely, we can do that. Let me see if I can show you exactly what that would look like here. So essentially what we'd end up doing then is select replace matching, because it's going to be a little bit more of an overlay. Let me go to content here. And so what we would do from here is if you had some secondary text files, maybe it was something in law that you then wanted to push over, you would just create a maybe like content to field, and then you can select what fields you want to populate that into. So let's say, though, that this was a supplemental text files that you got via a load file, so it's not in law. The same thing would apply. You would go through the load file import. Close out of that. You would go through the load file import. It would look very similar to this, and you would just point out to where those text files are in that load file, and it would import that into your secondary content to field if you need it. Does that answer the question?
I believe it does.
Okay, very good. Okay. So now that we have data in Evolution from law, folks are going to start getting in there. They're going to do their markups, their redactions. So when it comes time to produce, and let's say you want to produce in law, you're going to want to push those redacted images back into law. Now remember, we've done native processing in law. We've pushed the native files over. They've rendered images. Now what we can do is choose to only push back the images of the records that have markups and redactions. If they've reviewed 2,000 documents but only have made redactions on 3 of them, you wouldn't want to push all of those back over. It would take some time. You're only going to really want to push those that have redaction images back over. We can do that. If I right-click and then go to LAW PreDiscovery Sync, this is the process we're going to go through to bring data back into law. I'll just call this export, and I happen to not have a template here, so we'll just go through some of the settings. This part right here is going to allow you to create a tag within law. So after you push the data back in, you're going to need to have a way to find it. So Evolution is going to write a tag back in law. So now you can simply go into law, do a query based off of whatever tag you've chose to create here. That's going to bring up all the records that you've just pushed back into law. Here's where we're going to select documents for synchronization. Now, there's going to be two different parts to this here. The records, the overall record set that you may want to have produced total pushed over. And then this next part here is markups, where we're only going to be pushing images over. So I'm going to select all documents. I'm going to go next, and it's going to say there's 297. Okay, that's perfect. I'm going to go OK. So now I'm telling Evolution there's going to be a total of those 297 records, at the very least, are going to get an Evolution, that tag that I created in the job details here. From here, now I'm going to click on Images, because now there's only going to be a small set of images that I may want to push back over. And let's see here. I'm going to do, let's see if anything's tagged PowerPoint here, just as an example so you can see. We can do black and white or color, burn markups if I'd like, and I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Yeah, so it looks like I may not have anything based off of that particular tag here. Let me try it. Let me try another one here to see if I have anything. I may not have anything tagged. Okay, this is a good example here. So I have 4 records that I've tagged privileged. So that means that out of those 297 records that I'm going to be tagging in law as my production, only 4 records I'm pushing images back on, because those probably have those markups and redactions on those. And all that's really happening is an image replacement is occurring within law. So very similar if you did an image replacement, if you brought in an OPT file, did an image replacement in law, very similar to this, where that's what's occurring. If you don't have images already created in law, this is going to place an image in for that as well. So if you haven't done any tiffing, that's not going to stop the process. It's still going to put those 4 records will have the images of the markups and redactions that you've selected here. Okay, I'll do OK. And you can push any field back into law that you would like. In this case, I won't select anything here. Next. Any sort of tags you may want to push back. Next. And then very similar to some of the other things that you've seen here, this is just giving you the idea of the conversion priority, job templates. Next, and then if I were to hit finish, that's going to start that process of pushing the information back into LAW PreDiscovery. So pretty straightforward. And then once that's back, of course, then you can run your production out of law. If you choose then to push your image set back into Evolution, you do that through the law import, and then you can create that image set and bring what you're producing out of law back in. And I'll go ahead and cancel out. Okay. So that was a pretty high level of how the law integration piece works. You know, there's a lot more moving parts where we can import load files, of course. We can do productions out of Evolution as well. Setting up field securities, tagging structures, and things like that. Based off what you've seen with the law integration, do you have any questions or comments?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Does that support the multiple version of redactions in the same document? For example, 2 separate parties are reviewing the same document, and they want to maintain the original copy of the images, but wants also to do 2 separate redactions. How does that show back in law? Or law will only have 1 version of images versus the Evolution will have the multiple versions?
That's very correct. In law, as you know, there's only the option to see 1 image, or 1 image set essentially. Where in Evolution you would be able to see potentially multiple image sets. So as that stands, once you push images back into law, if there are already images within law for that corresponding record, it will overwrite that. And then you're going to get whatever you've pushed in. So law does not, at this point, have the ability to show multiple different image sets.
Okay. So technically the same way we are exporting the redacted images from evolution to concordance, I think we also have an option to export the produced set of images from the evolution to law.
Correct. So essentially what's happening is when the short answer to the question is yes, you're pushing the produced images, but technically the production itself isn't actually run until you push it out of law, if that's the direction you're choosing to go. Evolution is just pushing what you tell it to into law, then you run the production from there. Conversely, if you chose to run the production in evolution, that's going to automatically create that production set within evolution, and then you would export it out of evolution. So there's really two different workflows that you might be working with here, potentially based off your comfort level, or if you like to do productions out of law for your review platform, for example. So almost think of it as not necessarily I'm pushing a production set, from evolution into law. You're identifying records that you want to produce, pushing that back into law, and then you're running your production from there. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. And then I think once the production is run in law, you'll have to push back those produced set of images back to evolution so that reviewers can see them in the viewer mode.
You are spot on correct. That's absolutely accurate. Yep, you're absolutely accurate. Yep, you're spot on with that. And if you were to run the production in evolution, for example, and not law, all of that automatically does it for you because it's all self-contained within evolution. That image set gets written automatically right there. You wouldn't have to do that small extra step of pushing the production from law back into evolution. It's already there. So it really comes down to preference of what you feel more comfortable with on how you want to do your productions. One, the production set automatically shows up within evolution if you run it out of evolution. If you run it out of law, there's that small step of then pushing whatever you produced image-wise back into evolution. So as an image set.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you for all this. The similar question on the same note is that does every record have the history of each operation has been performed on that particular run?
For example, like an audit trail, or?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, audit one, just to see whether document, let's say images were pushed from evolution to law and then back and forth, a timing on user, who did that, and how many pages were there, or something like that.
Yeah, I would have to take a closer look at the audit log. We do have a pretty extensive auditing capability where we're able to see a lot of that stuff. Very specifically, though, what you're asking, I would have to go in and look at the audit log to see exactly what we can and cannot see. But we can definitely see what function has been run. So if I were to push a synchronization back in, it would say my user ID, what time I did it, and then what job I actually ran. And I think we'd be able to pull up another report of specifically what was pushed over. I think it would be two different reports that we'd be looking at. But at the very least, you could see who did what, and then you'd be able to go back and look at that job log, see what tag was created for it, and then you'd be able to reference it that way. But I'd have to take a closer look to see what we could get auditing-wise to address that. But I think we could get pretty close to what you're asking.
Okay, no, great. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, very good. Well, I appreciate your time today, and of course, if you have any additional questions or want to see something a little bit more specific, we can absolutely schedule a different demo where we can dive directly into your workflow and how that might work within Evolution.
All right, thanks, Dean. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Feel free, this is Jennifer Mediano, so feel free if you have any additional questions or follow-ups, send me a note, and I'm happy to connect you with the answers.